The topic I have in mind are the teachers giving their flowers. That's some kind of way to say, are they given the utmost respect that they deserve? Now, let's start like this. There is this saying that teachers are the foundation of a society, because education is the bedrock. With every development underneath, or the core, is the level of education in that locality. And some would argue that the reason why China is fast growing, same with India and other fast growing economies, is because they have, over the years, in the last 2-3 decades, invested so much in research and development. So they have expanded their level of knowledge and how they garner knowledge, right? However, in Nigeria, we have, some would say, remained static or retrogressed over the years. On Sunday, 1st of October, we celebrated, or we had our 63rd anniversary of being independent as a nation. However, that recurring question, lingered in a lot of people's mouth. Are we really independent? And so I'm going to bring it down to the teaching profession. Have we really developed? Have we really gone, as far as we should? Have we done great? Right from the primary to the secondary up to the tertiary institutions, have we done noble in terms of the teaching profession? And there is something that is hitting me so hard. It is that medical doctors are giving all the reverence and respect. What do you call it now? Lawyers are given the same, accountants are given the same, engineers, but teachers were the ones who made it possible for these people who are in these professions to become a member of these professions. Yet the teaching profession is not given as much attention as it should. And I have two guests on the show. One will be via the phone. One is making it into the studio right now. And the two guests, one will be coming from the tertiary institution angle or perspective. The other will be coming from the private school at the secondary or the primary and secondary level. And the third, there was supposed to be a third, but he's not available, I guess. So he was supposed to speak from the public sector angle, and I'm talking about the NUT chairman, Collins Ichikwu. However, we have his statement in our news bulletin, so I'm just going to quickly read it. Mr. Ichikwu actually complained about the shortage of teachers in the state, and that is what is affecting their work. Remember also, there is the recruitment of 10,000 civil servants, and applicants have applied, and about 2,000 slots were given to the state primary and post-primary school board. But the NUT state chairman is saying that 2,000 will not be enough. So that's one challenge that they are facing. Mr. Ichikwu also said that the state government must extend the retirement age and service period for teachers by 5 years. However, I'm wondering, is it because we have a shortage of people who want to be teachers? What is the reason? And it brings us to another conversation. What is the incentive? How do we incentivize the teaching profession so that more people can go into teaching, so that we do not retrogress like a lot or some people have argued? There is also the issue where the Director General of the National Teachers Institute, NTI, who is Professor Musa Maitafse, said that there is the plan to introduce a mandatory 1-year teacher internship program by January 2024, because you and I will agree to some extent that the teaching strength that we had some years back may not be the same, because a lot of people who are into teaching, I wouldn't say a lot, but some people who are into the teaching profession are into the teaching profession because they could not find job elsewhere, and so they decided to go into teaching. So not necessarily because they've got passion, and that's not to say we don't have teachers who are passionate about the teaching profession, but how do we ensure that the right set of people are the ones teaching our children to become leaders of tomorrow? So one of my guests is someone you already know, Austen Sado. I will get in touch with him shortly. The order of my guest is Isaac Nwadiunor, and he's joining me shortly in the studio as well, and we would have a conversation and we will talk for development. But the question I'm asking you is, do you think teachers are given the utmost respect that they deserve? And how do you think, two big questions in my head, how do you think we can have teachers get the utmost respect that they actually deserve? So I'm going to start with Austen Sado. Austen Sado, good afternoon to you. For those of you who do not know, he's a lecturer. I don't know how his department is called these days. Is it communication studies? Is it linguistics? Is it media? And it's been broken down, so I do not know what part it belongs to anymore. But he's a lecturer at the University of Port Harcourt. And let's say good afternoon to him. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Sado.
Yeah, good afternoon. Just to correct the point you're making.
Okay.
We now have a faculty of communication and media studies.
Okay.
And there's a department of public relations and advertising in that faculty, which I belong to.
Oh, okay. All right. So public relations and advertising.
Yeah.
All right, noted. So let's kickstart the conversation with you. Today is World Teachers Day, 63 years of Nigerian independence. How would you say the teaching profession, has journeyed over the years? Let's start from there.
Well, I think that the teaching profession, at the time I was growing up in primary school, had a very high position in the estimation and value of workers in the nation. I am not sure that is still the same. And in fact, I was speaking at another platform earlier this morning, and I said that when I was in primary school in the 70s, your teacher could come to your father's house to discipline you. And if your father tells you he was going to report a matter to your teacher, you knew you were in trouble. And in every of those communities where teachers were like the small village where I was in primary school, the community members respected teachers, supported them, and ensured that whatever they were given, irrespective of whatever they were given, that they were appreciated. Today, I'm not sure. And I'm saying this because I have been teaching myself for over 23 years. And in this period of time, I don't have a sense of appreciation, not from the government, not from even the students, and not even from parents. All you get to hear people talk about now is how teachers are high-handed, if you want to ensure discipline, or how teachers are corrupt, or how teachers are this and that. And it goes around, it rubs off on everybody. So I'm not sure that what used to be is still the same today. And of course, with introduction, or shall I say commercialization of education in Nigeria, I think we have lost more values now, because what we have, particularly in the private sector, and I'm not saying this to mean that all private institutions are the same, but majority of them, with exception of just a speckle of few, majority of them do not actually consider the teacher a valuable member of their
Now,
institutions.
let me pause
So
you.
teachers are now slaves.
Let me pause you quickly before we go for our first commercial break. I want to throw a question at you. Why do you think there is this level of disdain for teachers? Could it be self-inflicted? I'm saying self-inflicted in the sense that could the teachers have brought this upon themselves due to their attitudes over the years? Could it be that the way the government has treated the teachers? Could it be what is the reason, in your own opinion, as someone who's been teaching for over
There
decades?
are quite a number of reasons. There are quite a number of reasons, but principally driven by the loss of value for education. And that, of course, you see it in the attitude of policymakers.
Okay.
Whether it is in the primary school or in the secondary school, once public servants who were expected to superintend over policy and implementation in the education sector, once they commercialized it and started to set up schools for themselves, then, of course, the value was lost because they were no longer taking care of those public institutions. And I think the argument has adequately been made now, even when you hear the scandalous things that public officers say. In fact, I was scandalized last week to have watched a program, and I think chaired by the Senate chairman on appropriation, who was saying that universities in the country raise about 16 billion or so, and yet they are looking for money from government. And I was shocked because a man at that level should never have exhibited that level of ignorance. So when you have people in governance who are exhibiting a very high level of ignorance, then of course it will show in their policies. And so once that sets in, then education was also neglected. So it's only a matter of time before we got to where we are now. And it is clear to people now that government is almost handing over education to individuals.
All right, we'll go for our first commercial break, and when we come back, I'll ask you what is happening at the tertiary level, especially the universities. There is a report on The Guardian that lecturers are leaving the profession. We will be back. Stay tuned. Talking about World Teachers Day, and I have a question, or I've got series of questions, but the main one is, are teachers given their flowers? And Austen, or Mr. Sado, or is it, he was saying that lecturers, teachers generally are not respected anymore, and he talked about the fact that there is the decline in the need of education. Nobody gives education that much reverence like it used to be, and so that's why lecturers or teachers are no longer given that much respect. However, I asked a question earlier. Doctors, lawyers, pilots, all of these people who hold very, very sensitive positions in society were taught by teachers, by lecturers. So why are the lecturers not treated like, their students? So welcome back, Austen Sado. Thank you very much for joining the show.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So I asked a question and I said there is a report, and that report says, it's on The Guardian, that a lot of teachers are leaving the profession, either leaving for abroad or leaving for a private institution that you talked about, don't care about teachers, or leaving, to go to businesses. What do you think is the reason? So that's why you're on the show, to talk about the teaching level at the tertiary institutions.
Well, I think there's actually lack of actualization amongst lecturers at the tertiary level.
Okay.
If you recognize the fact that when you are a lecturer, you are employed to do three things. You are employed to teach, to do research, and offer community services. And the research component of it takes a lot of money. And it is only on the basis of the output of your research that you'll be considered for promotion. And you're paid meager salary. So you're unable to put as much into your research. But when you hear people talking outside, of course, the same ignorant conversation. Oh, lecturers are not researching. They are not bringing out any research. And you ask them, in those climes where people are doing research, are they using their personal money to do the research?
Of course.
Even the very highest level of policymakers, they make this kind of statement. So, it's for that reason, people are seeking greener pastures where they are appreciated. And of course, one thing that we need to understand is that teaching is an international job.
Okay.
What if you have a degree and you're a lecturer and you get another university overseas, you're still going to be a lecturer. It's not like many of the jobs that people do, that when you go overseas, you take a lower cadre position, or you become just like an artisan. No. If you're a lecturer and you have employment elsewhere, you're still going to be treated as a lecturer. So if you have places where you are recognized, where you are appreciated, why won't you do it? In fact, since the last strike, I personally have sent out links of employment to several of my younger colleagues, and I just asking them if it's your decision to make, if you want to continue in this misery, or you want to change the fortune of your family. As I speak with you, many of our colleagues cannot afford to pay the school fees of their wards. Averagely, a senior lecturer at the very highest level takes home just about 240,000 naira. A professor at the highest level probably takes between 350 and maybe 380,000 naira as salary a month, and he's expected to do, no matter whatever he does, he's expected to do research.
All right.
So everything is on that. Nobody sponsors anybody for conference, international or local, in this place. So people are leaving.
Can I pause you now? Can I pause you? Now the question I have in my head is, before now, one of the things ASU would complain about was that they were not enough lecturers or teachers in schools. With this mass exodus, as captioned in The Guardian newspaper, is it not worsening the situation? And if that is the case, are we saying that there is even a further decline in the educational sector, especially at the tertiary level?
Absolutely, that's the case. If you were involved in the struggle, and anytime you try to bring the challenges to the fore, even the masses who are beneficiaries of the struggle of ASU, they are the ones who will verify the most. So it has got to a point where people are taking their destiny in their hands. Many of us who are staying behind are staying behind for maybe one of three reasons. Number one, there are those who are now getting close to retirement that they just feel, well, we have suffered all this. This is our fate. Let's go on. There are those who are saying, look, this is our country. We just have to do something to redeem this country from these politicians who are bent on destroying it. And there are those other people who are also those who are maybe agents of the politicians. because they have infiltrated the universities as well. They've infiltrated through employment and all manner of things. So a group of people are just we're moving on. So it's getting worse by the day. When I was in school as a student, you'll have about 20, 30 students. Those who went to school earlier than me, they had just like 9, 10 in a class. Now we teach classes of 300, 350, and what you have at a faculty now, I'm sure that if you juxtapose it to the statistics in the University of Port Harcourt when it started back then in 75, you probably will be having the faculty maybe doubling in size than the entire university.
All right.
And there's no improvement on the condition of service. There's no improvement in the facilities. Just go around Nigerian universities and you see for yourself.
All right.
It's quite a table.
All right, thank you very much. I have Isaac Nwadiunor in the studio. He was my secondary school teacher. So for those of you who wonder why I know so much about government and politics, he is part of the reason, because while I was in secondary school, I would say, no, I don't like art subjects. I want to do science, and I didn't have the brains for it, I should confess. But welcome, Mr. Isaac. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Happy Teachers Day to our colleagues out there. Dr. Sado, thank you so much. I've listened to your contribution. Kala Daku.
Just go with Kalada. Let's go with Kalada.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it all started as if it was a play, and today we are in the teaching profession. So we give God praise.
Now, let's come to you now. Teaching secondary school, primary and secondary school. How well do you think that has evolved over the years? Now, this is Nigeria at 63, right?
Yeah.
How has the teaching profession evolved? Because when we watch documentaries, especially when we had the colonial master, it looked as if education was thriving at the time. My father, for instance, when it comes to mathematics, he will always pride himself, can do a solution, or rather solve a problem using 3-4 solutions, because they had great teachers back then. Do you think the teaching profession has declined in terms of the quality of teachers, and why so?
Well, you are drawing the conclusion for me.
I'm painting a picture.
Let me start like this. Well, I would rather like to talk from the angle of history.
Okay.
So the need for education in Nigeria actually came. Formal education actually started because there was a manpower deficiency. Okay, so what was in vogue then was the 3R: read, write, and record. And that was in consonance with the colonial policy, as at that time. Over the years, education has actually evolved, especially when you look at it from 1845, when Reverend Thompson actually started a school, the popular Abeokuta College, and then back to Lagos. You will now see that gradually it went in that historic manner. I think for this part of the world, education has actually evolved over the years, with so many characteristics and also features, ranging from household school to village secondary school. Of course, then it was much later in the 80s, following the failure of the Shagari government, that public school became, a very big market. So some of us were a product of the public schools in our days. We wrote, we believe, especially like what is obtained now in most community. We went through community secondary school. But the climax of it all was that what was in vogue was federal government colleges, which actually evolved in the 70s as an aspect of our federal character. And today, private school has taken the lead. If we go by this long stretch of discussion, you will discover that education has not necessarily declined. Take note of that. If education actually means a change in character as a result of acquired experience, what may have declined could have been the procedure, through which teaching and learning are actually executed. Okay. So I think if we come from that perspective,
now let me take you up on that now. You've said it evolved from village, community to public at the state level, the federal, and now to private.
Yes.
Now, while he was at the village, community, up until the federal level, it was easily accessible by an ordinary Nigerian. But private schools are now expensive, so to say.
Yes. The mere fact that they are private school actually shows you that there is a capitalist approach to education. Don't divorce that from education. Why are we talking like that? We run a system. Nigeria runs a system. Initially, we're told that the system was imperialistic, and then, of course, our colonial master brought in some element of primitive capitalism, and then we evolved from primitive capitalism to large-scale capitalism in the name of mixed economy, and then came back again to tell us that, we are confused. Okay, there's a need for an individual to set up schools and others. But bear in mind that these private entrepreneurs who actually took up the venture of running schools had in mind profit. Don't divorce the part of profit. Education may actually be part of the social, infrastructure of the state, but there's also a business side to it.
Okay.
So the business side to it is actually a response to what the national economy says. You remember, we have the national economic life. Aspect of national economic life could be mining, could be this, but education is one of the substructure in it. And the private school has actually found a very big market in Nigeria.
And so you don't think the capitalist nature of education has declined it?
No, it has not.
Do you agree with him, Sado?
No, I don't. I don't because if you take a census of what is happening in our private schools, many of the teachers are not trained or qualified teachers. The condition of service is poor. So they are merely using them to keep students and make money. And of course, you see that the issues about miracle centers and students must pass, they all came from private schools. So I think that once we left that segment, that sector to individuals who are, as she said, profit minded, then as a matter of fact, it's going to be what will determine your performance is how much money that is in the hand of the proprietor. And so the competition among private schools now on who is first in JAMB or who is first in WAEC or any other sponsored competition, you can clearly see that people may even go beyond what is accepted to influence the position. So they advertise with that because it's merely a product on the shelf to be purchased.
Now let me throw a question now. The Director General of the National Teachers Institute has said that there is the plan to introduce a 1-year mandatory teacher internship program. You have mentioned that a lot of the teachers in the private sector are not necessarily teachers, and you mentioned something in that nature. Now the question will be, will this help?
Yeah, it will. Anything that is in the area of training and retraining will definitely be acceptable. But the problem may not just be with the training. The problem is in the practice in the various places. Those who are the owners of these institutions are not driven by the quality of the output. They are simply thinking about how much money they are going to make. And if that's the case, you may as well give them training, which is good, by the way. But after that, where do they practice? With what do they demonstrate and help the students? You see, the policy we have in education, where government is almost leaving or abdicating responsibility and completely giving it over to the private sector, is going to destroy completely our education, because the competition is not competition of knowledge, it's competition of profit.
All right. Do you want to say something?
No, I actually don't share the opinion of Dr. Sado.
Yeah.
Even the opinion are sacrosanct and sacred. The reason is that, one, you know the history of our contact.
Yeah.
Some of them may have, especially those in the private sector. One thing that is very clear is this. I think doctors should also understand that education is not what the government alone can fund. There's an individual contribution to education. That is one side to it. The second perspective to it is that if we look at education as Miracle Center, remember, some of us are trained as teachers.
Okay.
We are certified.
Okay.
We took the pain of writing TRCN exam to make sure that we actually meet the professional ethics. And so by so doing, there are schools too in this state. You can bear me witness, even your alma mater, We are against exam malpractice. And then over the years, I have evolved, as a school administrator, and I'm also aware that there are courts and there are shortcuts to exam malpractices. But there are schools that don't do it, especially the big schools in town. What you may say about them is that the cost of entry may be very, very high and expensive, but the desired result will always be there.
Sorry about that.
Will always be there. So it is on this basis that I say, well, first and foremost, if we claim to be a capitalist country, whether semi-capitalist or mixed, as the case may be, what it means is that the government alone cannot fund education. Okay. There's a private input into education. And also, some of the product of these private schools are not even doing badly. Let's take it beyond the primary and secondary school, even in the university. Some of the private universities in Nigeria are also doing extremely well. You remember the current ranking of university?
Yeah.
Of course, it was not even it was a private university. So what I'm saying is that your market is what you call it to be. That's exactly the position the society should know.
So what are some of the challenges in the private sector now that you've mentioned?
Sorry, Kalada.
Yeah, quickly.
Just a minute, please. Pardon me.
Yeah, quickly.
The point he made about government not being able to sponsor education alone is not correct. This is what the people in governance have told us. Is Nigeria more capitalist than Finland? Is Nigeria more capitalist than Germany? Is Nigeria more capitalist than UK? We have examples. Education is a social good. It cannot be commercialized, particularly in developing countries. What government is doing in Nigeria is to sell this idea, and they tell you, say, government alone cannot fund it. What can government alone do in Nigeria?
All right. I, because of somewhat, there's not much time. Let's go back to Mr. Nwadiunor and tell me, what are some of the challenges, in the private sector? Because we know some of the challenges in the public sector. We've been told by the NUT chairman that they lack enough teachers, that even the employment of 2,000 teachers will not be enough to fill the vacuum. They've also talked about retirement age and all the likes. But what is the problem?
I think it's good to categorize their problem in three ways. There's a manpower problem in the private sector. Okay. Chances are that a teacher who is actually not a professional, for instance, if you didn't study history, chances are, because the school wants you to meet a particular workload for a week, you may actually be asked to do subjects that you don't have competencies in. It's obvious. Another aspect of it is that you look at it, most private schools don't have retirement plan for their staff. Okay. So you could actually work in a school for 20 years, for 23 years. By the time you are going home, it's your last salary that you took home. So that's a problem, because one, if there's no social insurance for you after you have taught for this number of years, especially in the private setting, you cannot even think of the profession, because it takes somebody who has something in the tummy to say a lot.
So even in the private sector, the teachers are not given their flowers.
In fact, I can tell you 85% of the teachers don't have retirement plan in the private sector.
Interesting. Okay. What do you think the government can do? Because it is the government who still would give licenses to the private schools. What do you think the government can do to ensure that education in the private sector is improved? And how do we, even in the private sector, incentivize teaching profession?
Well, let's start from here. Government will tell you that you must be given operational permit for you to run a school, of course, which is true. And from time to time, they come in with a quarterly, supervision plan. They visit your school, and when they want subject accreditation, they send people from NECO and WAEC to you. They'll come in and do accreditation so that you can do certain subject, which is noble. But the problem is not just sending people there. The quality of people that they send to you is also a problem. Some of them actually are concerned with what is going to come out. Some will even tell you, we are unable to climb your stairways, please let's have your diaries. By the time they flip through the diary, they say, what about our transport fare? Which is also a problem, because by so doing, the quality control of the school is affected. You don't even know what is going on. One way to incentivize teaching is to actually make it a passion. Make it a passion. Some years ago, I delivered a paper on the teacher, his trade and his ethics. When a teacher knows his job, he knows the ethics of his profession, of course, that becomes a personal motivation to him. Government must also see to it that private school owners actually make it a responsibility to see if a man has put in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, even 8, 10 years in your school, he shouldn't go like that, empty-handed.
Right.
That's one way to encourage,
And you also think this 1 year mandatory will make teachers up their game, up the ante?
Well, let's start from that. Is it trained teachers that are going through the 1 year mandatory program, or we are talking about those who are actually grafted into the teaching profession who will do 1 year? After all, postgraduate diplomas in the university are actually done for 1 year.
Okay. One final question for you.
Yes.
Let's drag it to the public sector, since we don't have a public representative here.
Yes.
How do you think we can improve that as well? Yes, you've said there's a capitalist angle to the conversation, but we still have those people who can afford it. So what do you think? Because looking at the public school system, it's terrible. I've gone to some of them. It's really terrible. What can we do?
A lot can be done in the public school.
Like what?
First and foremost, an organization represents the personality of its leader. That's true.
Okay.
That's it.
So the leadership.
If the leadership is vibrant, is connected, and is also capable of delivering the good, others will follow.
All right. Okay. Back to you now, Dr. Sado. Let's get to hear from you concerning the universities. Now, students, I remember, I think it was a while ago when you and I had a conversation, and I gave you the statistics, the data of the number of students leaving Nigeria. And at some point, I told you that in Ghana, as at 2017, Nigerians were sponsoring the educational sector to the tune of $1.9 million, right? I remember telling you and giving you all of those statistics. More people are leaving the shores. More people are going to the UK to study. More people are going to the US and Canada to study. What does that mean for our universities in Nigeria?
It's not just our university. We should be talking about our development.
Okay.
When people leave, you will no longer be able to service the economy. Education actually should be to service the economy. So as people are leaving, we're also losing our national income. You know, when you look at the stress on dollar, education tourism, medical tourism, these are also taking a very big bite of the cake.
Yeah, true.
So when people go out, they will need to pay in foreign currency. And those people that are going out, they are going out because people have invested. The point I need to make here is I am not isolating education, but I know that education is pivotal. There is nothing that we need to make investment in this country that government is investing in. Even the oil that is giving us the money we are spending. Ask experts in the oil industry how much government is investing in that oil. In fact, the failure of the refineries are example for you that if you have institutions like that could help you get foreign exchange and you are not doing it, what are you going to do? Are you going to print other countries for other countries for currency? No. So it portends great danger for us in our country, but education more, because that is the focus. Otherwise, down the road to every aspect of our development, lawyers, doctors, engineers, even teachers, there is all going to be that of all these among the people.
All right. So you're saying it's going to stunt our development, our growth. Does that mean with the way things are going, because there's a trajectory, everybody wants to go abroad, and you said to yourself that you've given your younger colleagues your links to apply for teaching jobs abroad. So if the teachers are leaving, if the students are leaving, and then we're not producing enough professionals in our society and stunting our development, does that not mean that we are almost going to be like the Titanic hitting the iceberg?
That's the disaster that is waiting to happen. It's a disaster, but you see, the public, the government, big people in politics, they don't understand this because, one, their families don't stay here. So even when their children finish, they don't need to work overseas to keep on keeping their body and soul together. The politicians are taking enough money away from our system to support their families overseas. The other people, unfortunately, who are caught in between are people who are struggling to send their children overseas. In fact, I met somebody that should never have had any problem of borrowing money, and he had to sell the car to pay the children's school fees, and it still was not enough, and he was lamenting. He was doing that because there is no opportunity, and he just found himself in that situation. So everybody is going to pay a price for whatever negligence that we have given to the system.
How do we incentivize? What incentives can we give to teachers in the university or universities and also students, so we can boost our education and also boost research and development?
Teachers across all levels should not be the lowest in the rung of our economic agenda. So teachers must be paid adequate remuneration. Anybody who is teaching your child probably deserves to earn more than you. But if you think it's not right to pay the person right, then you can imagine what he's going to give to your child. And as we think, we always believe and feel that the generation next should be better than the present generation. So if you are not preparing the generation next to be better than our own generation, you're also destroying that generation that is here to come. So to do that, we have to make sure that teachers are recognized, they are well paid, the environment should be conducive enough for them to work. Then all they need in terms of facility, both in the laboratories, the libraries, and the environment must be conducive for them for knowledge production.
All right.
Once you destroy the foundation of that knowledge production, the remaining is a matter of time before you hit the disaster.
Okay, let's pause you there. Now, Mr. Nwadiunor, do you agree that if someone is teaching your child, the person should be earning more than you, or even twice, thrice what you earn?
It's a truism, but then the reality on ground is, if the person that is teaching your child earns higher than you who pay, where will the process be oiled? I don't know whether you get the point.
I'm trying to understand you.
No, this is what I'm trying to tell you. I don't quarrel with the submission of Dr. Sado on this issue. But in reality, what the economy is saying can actually not sustain what he has said.
But now this is what
That's why I said
this is what you teachers say. You say education. I mean, I was taught in secondary school that education is the bedrock of society. So without knowledge, society cannot develop.
Exactly.
So for us to get to that economic buoyancy, we need our education to be buoyant as well. So why don't we invest in education so that we can get to economic buoyancy?
No, I would like you to see education as a system.
Okay.
Education actually entails teaching and learning. Okay, and other associated services, and that actually boosts knowledge. Knowledge generates what skill, okay, and of course, it is also transferred from generation to generation, which creates wealth. The wealth is recycled back again to the educated, and which they pump into the school system. I don't know whether I get it.
Yeah.
If it flows in that system, we would have achieved our purpose.
All right, time is fast spent. I'm going to quickly take one or two calls if it's possible. Why do you think teachers at the primary, secondary and tertiary level, or you could say basic, middle and tertiary level, why don't they have the much respect that they deserve? I mean, they train us into professors, or rather into lawyers and into doctors and into all the various professions that we have, but they are not treated as greatly as they should. It was recently, they increased the salaries of teachers in River State, and there was so much rancor about it, or should I say so much, because the teachers have been suffering. And by the way, I mean, Dr. Sado, I would like you to just, prepare your thoughts. There is to talk about the federal government increasing the salaries of lecturers. Will that help with the situation of things? So 2 calls. I will take 2 calls. Remember, there is a call screener, 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. What is your take on this? I'd like to hear from you. All right, I'm just going to quickly take this one. Hello, what's your name?
Yeah, hello. I am Michael from Gruta.
All right, Michael from Gruta, quickly, you've got 60 seconds.
Yeah, please, I just want to correct a point here. Teachers' salary we are not increased.
Oh, okay.
So they were just promoted, and the salary
Was now raised. Okay.
and the salary were increased.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that correction.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for calling in. So I'm going to take the second call. I've got Ida. Ida is calling from Nkoro. All right, Ida, welcome quickly.
Yeah, Alana, thank you very much.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to congratulate the teachers. Today is their day. You know, these teachers produce the presidency, the governor, the senator, the House of Assembly member. Without them, nobody can sign paper. So today is their day. I want to plead the governor of Rivers State and the presidency to please increase this with their salary and make them chop well. People are trying. They will stand to teach. They will become something. Their salary will small. Please, let these teachers. I'm telling you the truth. All
right, Ida, I've got to go. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Remember, we will continue the conversation after the 6 o'clock news when we have the open season. But I'll have the gentlemen tell us their final words. I'll start with you, Austen Sado. Can you please tell me your final word, that is? Can you tell me if the increment that is being negotiated will have any kind of motivation for lecturers at the university level?
Well, we have not negotiated any salary increment with the government, but I think last week there was a circular going around where they claimed to have increased 23.5 for junior lecturers and 35 for professors. And what it means actually in practical terms is like those younger people will have between 47 and 54,000 naira added to their salary, while professors will have between 60 something and 80 something thousand naira added to their salary. So if you put that against what I told you earlier on, it means that a professor probably will now be getting close to 400 or 420,000 naira. That is still a far cry. There is no reason any worker in Nigeria should earn higher than a professor. There's no reason. No reason. In fact, in our country, a professor used to be the highest paid person in this country.
I have to pause you now. I have to go. Your final words, please.
Well, as professional colleague, I would like us to state here that we can still continue to do our job, believing that the future is very close to us. The teaching profession is motivating, encouraging, and above all, it's also service-oriented. Let's do it.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Austen Sado, lecturer, University of Port Harcourt. I've just been told he's lecturing at the Department of is it public relations and advertising. I get it now. And I have my teacher from secondary school. I can't call the name of my secondary school.
Okay, thank you.
But Isaac Nwadiunor, thank you very much, is my teacher and public affairs analyst.
Thank you so much for doing so well. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. And do stay tuned. More conversations coming your way.